Hey guys, evolution is a fact, but you can call me Church. Welcome to Church on Monday, the podcast where I talk at you about shit I like. Now, this week's episode is gonna be a little more negative than I usually am, but I'm fundamentally optimistic about media, so I will throw some more positive things in, and I will analyze this in a more positive light as an actual part of the franchise that I'm going to be getting into. But first, we'll do the drink of the week. Now, this week, I'm drinking an ice-cold Fat Tire. Fat Tire's bold, smooth taste is fitting for any occasion and any season. Fat Tire. You really think they'd fucking sponsor me? So, this week, I am talking about the Dragon's Dogma anime. Now, I really love Dragon's Dogma, the game, and I was excited, though obviously hesitantly so, when I heard that Netflix was making an anime adaptation of the game's story. Now, I won't say that all of Netflix's anime adaptations, their anime ventures, or anything they do related to anime is horrible. They obviously don't have the best practices when bringing anime over, and they don't have the best practices when adapting specific anime. But Devilman Crybaby was surprisingly fucking fantastic. Seven Deadly Sins is okay. Their output is not horrible. So I didn't have high hopes for this, but I was kind of looking forward to seeing what they would do. Unfortunately, this anime is fucking botched. It's not good. I am very disappointed with what happened here. And what they did with the story. Now, if you haven't seen it, I'll kind of explain the basis. So, this guy, Ethan, has his family, including his surrogate son and pregnant wife, killed in Cassardus, the town at the beginning of the game. And he goes out to seek vengeance on the dragon who destroyed his home life and his hometown. Now, this is vaguely like the beginning of the game, but it's so personalized to this character that they created, who is clearly designed off of Savin, the seneschal and previous successful arisen from the game, to the point where I thought, okay, this is nothing like the actual story of the game, so they're telling like a prologue story, like about Savin or the Arisen that becomes Grigori or something. Those theories fall apart by the end, and I'll talk about that and what my new conclusions are based off of that, trying to optimistically integrate it into the actual game. But the story just does not feel like it takes place in the same world. They neglect to talk about Greenwarish, Wake Stones, Rift Stones. They show a Rift Stone, but they don't explain it at all. It's one fucking time. They get the Heart Scar and the Pawn Print right, but that's about fucking it. They don't give a shit about fairy stones. They don't even go to the Grand Soren. They call it the capital the whole time. And really, it feels like a slap in the face because they are very good at using like some of the magic techniques and battle techniques that we see in the game, some of the dynamics, but like there's a single pawn, there's no recruitment of pawns, there's no party building. It just does not take advantage of being a game adaptation at all. I have a list here of what they've neglected that I'm going to go through. They have no mention of Greenwarish, the Brine, which they have a perfect opportunity to talk about the Brine with the backstory of Ethan and his father. There's a story about how he just kind of washed up back at shore after his father sailed out with him, basically to commit suicide. And they're like, well, he just mysteriously floated back. They could have integrated the brine, which is an admittedly unexplained game mechanic monster, but still, it would have been cool to integrate that. So there's no mention of Greenwarish, the brine, fairy stones, wake stones, rift stones, parapet, salvation, which is a huge fucking deal in the games, which, again, if this were a direct prologue, no mention of salvation would have been fucking fine. But they have little consideration for the lore. It's like they're taking the same story and just completely gutting it. And they base it around the idea of the seven deadly sins. And in the end, Ethan's pride is what makes him turn into the dragon. Well, that's fucking bullshit if you've played through the game. Because while there are obvious Western influences in the aesthetics of the game, the religious and philosophical state of the world are based very much on Buddhist and Shinto ideas of karmic cycles and vague ritualistic spiritualism. And it's just completely westernized for this one, but it keeps the technical cycle of the game, which gives it no fucking personality. It corrupts the meaning and just kind of creates a lesser storyline than the game. Now, on the art style is okay. I'm not a big fan of 3D anime, but it looks alright with the normal characters and with the combat, and honestly, the goblins look really good. But the big monsters, like the Cyclops or the Hydra, just look fucking horrible. And the worst case is with Grigori. The fucking dragon looks horrible. The lighting on it is so out of place, and if they were going for an otherworldly feel, they fucking failed, because it just looks like shit. It's so unbelievable and so ill integrated into their world that it just looks like shit. And I can't bitch enough about how bad it is to botch the dragon model in Dragon's Dogma. Like, the model they use in the intro looks fucking great. It looks like they pulled it directly from the fucking game, which would have been better than what they did to it. So, the animation sucks. I will say that the sequence where they first battle the Hydra is pretty fucking cool, and some of the battle sequences are cool, but really, if you have fucked up the story so much that you don't give a shit about the stakes, and the pacing of the character progression is unbelievable, the battle sequences are not engaging enough to be as cool as they could potentially be. Now, the character progression. They touch on the idea of pawns becoming more human as they interact with the Arisen, and this is a big part of the story of Dragon's Dogma. But in this case, they also explore the Arisen turning into a dragon, which is not a consequence of pride or greed or anything. Those consequences are that you get to be fucking immortal and get all your dream shit, but you don't actually move the world forward. You leave it stagnant. And that's the much better interpretation of this cycle, in my opinion. It's much more interesting, obviously. But turning him into a dragon over 7 fucking episodes because of his pride is just poorly paced. Like, he's a caring, thoughtful person in the very beginning, and like 3 episodes in, he's a rage-filled monster only thinking about revenge. And making this a revenge story is very strange, coming off of the game. Additionally, this show is pretty horny. There's a fair amount of nudity and there's some sex in it, which feels very strange because the game is aggressively sexless. Aggressively sexless. Like, it's weird in the game because you're courting all of these beautiful women or handsome men, and there is no mention of sex in the fucking world, but you have your beloved that the dragon steals. And I'm okay with building up an actual romance, but having Ethan have a previous romance and the dragon just fucking outright killing his beloved in the beginning is a total disservice to that choice, which isn't really a choice in this anime. It's, hey, you killed the dragon, but it was because you were wrathful, and so that's why you turned into a dragon. But the whole reason the dragon turned him into an arisen was because he was fucking wrathful. It's totally neglecting the point of creating a new seneschal, and only in failing the test of volition and will does the arisen become a dragon. So, I'm sorry that this is more of a rant video, but this game is near and dear to my heart, and so this anime really disappointed me. I saw a lot of potential there. Like I said, they make some cool uses of the game mechanics. Like, their nod at the lantern is pretty cool. I'm okay with that. But the rest is just... it's sad. It's sad. And, they're not gonna make a fucking second season. But if they did, I'd like them to integrate more of those game mechanics, the items, the lore that we actually know. Like, in the middle of the series, I was theorizing, because it's obviously not the story of our Arisen in Dragon's Dogma. And I started theorizing. I'm like, okay, is this Savin's story? Is this the original Grigori's story? Is this Damon's story? And it turns out, no, none of those. The one thing I could theorize about that there's enough room to is the fucking Dragon, but there's like no info on that. So that would just be throwing shit at the wall speculation. But if they do move into a second season, I'd like to see a prologue, like showing Damon's story or Savin's story or anything like that. That would be really cool. Again, that's probably not going to happen. They're probably not even going to have a second season, so this is probably just me throwing ideas at the abyss and it not even looking back. But that's my hopeful take on it. That's my trying to dredge this cynical rant out from the fucking pits of despair. And who knows? Maybe they'll see this one video and be inspired. That would be nice. That would be very nice. Nice like an ice-cold bottle of Fat Tire. Anyway, I'm going to have ideally a more interesting episode next week. I recently watched a classic movie that really fucking inspired me to write on some things, so I'm hoping to have that more ambitious project out next week. But until then, I hope you all have a fantastic week. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at itsjustchurch, or you can email me at churchonmondaypod@gmail.com. Until I see you again, love ya. Bye. No tears, don't fuck with more yet. Take what you can get. You're not my girlfriend.